Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day is muster. And a lot of you probably don't use that word on a daily basis. And there's various definitions of it. It is essentially a military term. But the definition I have chosen today is critical examination. So to muster up the courage, for instance, to take a critical examination of yourself, someone else, or an issue, basically. Now, I'm going to be reading to you this original story is from the Washington Post, and my little sub-headline to it is, I'm glad that some Republicans were able to muster up the courage to stand with the president. In other words, they got the cojones, the truck nuts, to actually vote the right way and prevent the overturning of President Trump's first ever veto and he vetoed, of course, the act where Congress passed both in the House and the Senate to overturn the president's emergency act along the Mexican border. So as I say, this is coming to you from the Washington Post. House fails to override Trump veto on southern border emergency. President Trump's declaration of a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border survived a critical vote in the House on Tuesday as Democrats failed to muster the necessary two-thirds majority to override the veto. So my first question would be this. Why did the president have to veto this to start with? Now, I understand why. I mean, obviously, the Congress, both the House and the Senate, voted to overturn the president's emergency powers. The act, the emergency powers, using the act of 1976 to apply it to the border. So I get that. But my question when I say why is, why did it even come to this? They all know that there is an emergency on the border, that it is not, as they say, a manufactured crisis. Believe me, everybody but maybe somebody like Ocasio-Cortez already knows it. And the evidence is clear because they've already voted for this stuff time and time again. Like I've reported to you before, but if I say it, it bears repeating. The last 4 presidents before Trump built wall. And that includes a couple of Bushes with a Clinton thrown in the middle and an Obama guy that was there for 8 years, for God's sakes. All 4 of those presidents built border fencing, wall, bollard, concrete, everything you can imagine. They did it because they knew that there was some level of crisis ongoing at the border. And believe me, and I know this is really scary, so I give you kind of an alert to hide the women, hide the children on this. If Hillary Clinton had become president, oh my God, by the way, just for clarification, Hillary, in case you're listening, don't get all excited because you will never be president. You're not president and you never will. And Donald Trump is still your president. So, but I say that if Hillary Clinton, God help us, had actually won, you know what she'd be doing right now along the Mexican border? She'd be building wall. There's really no doubt about that, man, because they all know it. So I ask you, why did he have to veto this in the first place? It's all politics. It has nothing to do with principle. They can't muster up enough courage to vote on their principle, so they're voting cowardly on pure politics. The vote here, now let's give you I'm going to give you the actual statistics on this for a very important reason, which will be revealed in a moment. The vote was 248 to 181. This is in the House, well short of the 288 that would have been required. The vote effectively ends for now legislative attempts to strike down Trump's national emergency declaration. I'm glad they had to vote. It was predictable. It was not going to be overturned, his veto, but I am really glad they had to vote. Now the fight is over an attempt to circumvent Congress to get more money for his border wall and will shift to the courts. Now, I ask another kind of rhetorical question. Why the courts? Well, I know it's going to go to the courts because that's the only way Democrats have ever been able to get effective legislation is through the courts. From abortion acts to Obamacare, you name it, to, you know, anybody being able to marry anybody and everything else. All of that stuff came through the courts because the Democrats can't, even when they have the majority, they can't push through their real agenda. So that's why they're trying to take the White House as well.
John, the Pentagon just put through $1 billion towards the border wall.
I saw that. And in this article, even though I'm not going to really cover it, they asked this kind of question. Well, it hadn't come out yet for this $1 billion that, first of all, they're pissed about the billion because there's nothing they can do about it. But here's the crazy thing. They asked the question. They literally have the cojones to ask the question, well, we need details of which project that the Pentagon was going to do that's either going to be canceled or delayed. $1 billion. I wish that our defense budget was so low that $1 billion would actually affect it. Believe me, that is literally couch cushion money. I mean, they piss away $1 billion just on studying, like, you know, why you might cough or something. I don't know. I mean, the idea that the whole idea that the Pentagon's budget is going to suffer a major setback because they're coming up with $1 billion for the border wall shows that they either are total liars or they have no concept of what the actual military budget is, which is, by the way, why Trump stands up to NATO all the time, because they need to pay their fair share. But the courts, of course it's going to go to the courts, and I'm going to make a good case for you in just a minute why that is not going to work. President Trump can't, back to the article, Billy Bob here tells me to get back to the article. In case you haven't met my psychic sidekick, this is Billy Bob Bass. He's kind of my comic relief. He basically keeps me on track. He has a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1. He has a growing following, so go check him out. Follow at Billy Bob Bass 1. Mine is at John Martin Talks. And we become Twitter twats as the mood strikes us at any given moment. So get on there and check it out. But according to Attorney General Xavier Becerra, I guess I'm saying that right, he is California's Attorney General. He's actually a former congressman. He said President Trump can't take taxpayer dollars to build a wall without Congress's permission. Well, and don't tune out when I say this. I'm going to shock you right off the bat. I agree with Attorney General from California 100%. I absolutely agree with him 100%. Let me reread his statement. He said, President Trump can't take taxpayer dollars to build a wall without Congress permission. Of course the president can't do that, right? But there's a little fly in the thing. The problem for you, sir, is that Congress gave the president this power. They gave it up. Then the Constitution, I would agree with the Attorney General of California that the Constitution gives the power of the purse to the House of Representatives. But the House of Representatives in 1976 gave away this power when it comes to Emergency Act to the office of the president. They didn't. Maybe they should have known that one day Donald Trump would rise up. The Manchurian candidate Donald Trump, Putin's puppet. I don't know. I can't say it right. Anyway, it's part of this whole fantasy that Trump, growing up in Queens, it falls ass deep into money. He's a buffoon, but he becomes a billionaire and a TV star and everything. He does all of that just so one day he can be the Manchurian and President Putin's main guy in the White House. I mean, that's the fantasy they would have you believe, man. It is crazy. But the problem that the Democrats are facing is they didn't know that Donald Trump one day would be president. And guess what? He's still your president. I know you hate that so much. I love saying it. Donald Trump is still your president. I'll never get tired of saying it. I get tired of winning. And oh, by the way, this vote is a win for Donald Trump. Another one. While others are whining, Trump is winning, baby. Are you getting tired of winning yet? Hell no. We're just getting started, baby. But they gave the office of president this power. Congress did it, man. The National Emergencies Act, otherwise known as the NEA, enacted September 4th, 1976, is a United States federal law passed to end all previous national emergencies and to formulate the emergency powers of the president. And in that act, they gave the president the powers of the purse on this issue. He doesn't have to go to Congress to ask for money. He could, but he can use discretionary funds at his will. The office can do this. It's not just Donald Trump, Donald Trump is still your president. I never get tired. But in the 20 states standing up, this is what this Attorney General from California went on to say. The 20 states standing with us in a court are ready to fight long and hard to stop his fabricated emergency in his tracks. Fabricated. You lost. Get over it. All you snowflakes, all you hardcore progressive Democrats, not every Democrat out there, but the ones that are certainly leading your party, get over it. You lost. You continue to lose, and you're going to continue to lose because the truth is on Donald Trump's side, man. And I know they hate to hear that. But the story goes on to say, lawmakers of both parties said the emergency declaration, which allows Trump to redirect Congress appropriated for other purposes to use for border control. Congress allows. Even this article in the Washington Post says that Congress has allowed Trump to do this because that's what the act does. And it represented a dramatic intrusion, according to Congress, into Congress' authority over government spending. It's not a fact. It says here, the floor debate ahead of the vote Tuesday, Democrats insisted Trump was violating the Constitution, separation of powers, as if they ever read the Constitution, while Republicans argue he was acting within his authority under the National Emergencies Act to address genuine crisis at the southern border. And he was. Now, let me just say this, so you know. I don't actually agree with the National Emergency Act. Now, it has nothing to do with President Obama or his use of it. I 100% agree that he is using it correctly and for a true emergency. But I don't actually like empowering presidents to willy-nilly spend money. I'm not saying that's what President Trump is doing, but that's in effect what this act actually does, and Congress doesn't like what they've actually passed. So if you want to debate whether or not they should have passed it, whether or not the actual act itself should be overturned and take this power away from the office of president, has nothing to do with Trump, hey, I'm sympathetic to you because I think the office of presidency, and this is not about any specific individual, because they've all tried to expand their powers in office. That's what human beings do. Power kind of corrupts, right? I mean, that's just the natural flow of things. But the office of presidency has grown way beyond the constitutional original boundaries, but Congress has been complicit on that because they've taken powers away from the state, the powers of the people, all these kind of things. But Trump absolutely, so let me just be clear, I disagree with the concept behind the NEA Act. But the fact that Trump is using it correctly, I agree 100%. So if it's there, then he has every right to use it, and that's what he's doing. And if it's ever had a purpose, I don't think anything is more emergency than what's happening at our border, southern border especially. But they go on to say here, this is Representative Joaquin Castro. I think his brother's actually running for president among, a bunch of other brothers and mothers or whatever. But he says, he's a Democrat from Texas. He says, what we have here is an act of constitutional vandalism. The executive trying to steal the power of the purse from Congress. Now, keep in mind, this is a dude that supports basically giving away Texas and most of the West to Mexico, the La Raza deal. So this guy really don't care much about the Constitution to start with. But he warned lawmakers that if lawmakers allow it to happen, future presidents of both parties will have great power to ignore Congress. Well, like I say, if you're on my side on it, then just change the dadgum law. But here's the problem that people like Mr. Castro are going to have, and the Attorney General of California, when it comes to the courts. Because Congress, as I say, passed this. So let's look at the details. Surely the people that passed this were a bunch of unknowing, unwittingly did it. They had to be unwittingly future MAGA hat and MAGA supporters, right? That they saw the future, they rubbed the crystal ball, and that one day Donald Trump will rise. They might have predicted Captain Whitebread will rise. He has risen, by the way. We'll get more into that in a minute. But they would predict Donald Trump would rise. So they gave this act. So let's actually go back and look. And I haven't heard this from anybody, so maybe this is exclusive to JMT. But let's go back and look at the makeup of the Congress that passed this act that gave ultimately the presidency and today Donald Trump the authority to do what he did. So let's start with the U.S. Senate in 1976. There were 61 Democrats, 42 Republicans, 1 independent, and 1 conservative. This number of Democrats is extremely significant. 61. That means they have the power to not only to filibuster, but to override a presidential veto had it happened, and it obviously didn't happen. So they were in control of this. They also, if memory serves me correct, we're actually in control of the White House, right? But the House of Representatives that gave the president, no president, think about it, I'm going to tell you this, no president is going to turn down power. If you're going to vote to give a president more power, hey, they'll take it. They'll say, yeah, I'll take it. I mean, I don't really want to take it, but, I don't really want that piece of pie, but, yeah, I'll take it. What the hell? I mean, can you imagine a president standing up and going, you're trying to give me more power? Nah, don't want it. I mean, that ain't happening. They're human beings. I mean, they didn't run to become president to be weak, except maybe Jimmy Carter, but they're going to take it. So the Senate had 61 Democrats. I don't know what the actual vote is, but they could have stopped this dead in its tracks. The House of Representatives had Democrats 291 to Republicans 144. Now, so you could tell the Democrats gave the office of president the power that Donald Trump is now enacting. So I don't know what, you're going to have some really good shyster lawyers. Maybe hire the bend over team of Avenatti and Cohen. They should come. They should go. The bend over law enforcement. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at yesterday's show, because both Avenatti and Michael Cohen, they gonna meet Toss Salad Man and his brother Bend Over in the not too distant future.
They're gonna get double mic'd.
They're gonna get double mic'd, a double Mikey, man, one for each knee. So, go back and check out our podcast. By the way, if you're having trouble finding that, it's easy to find. First of all, go back. If you haven't done this already, I would ask you to please go directly to my John Martin Talks Facebook site, like it directly, and directly invite others to do it. I know a lot of you are watching on multiple sites, and I'm grateful for it, but you would help us a great deal if you could go to that. You can also go to johnmartintalks.tv anytime and see all of our podcasts there, all of our videos, as well as our John Martin Talks YouTube channel, which we're going to be expanding and improving. It's literally under construction, but you can still use it in the meantime. But the House, getting back to the story, the House and the Senate gave the power of the purse that they're bemoaning to, they gave away their powers, their constitutional powers, to the office of president. Now, I don't think they should have done that, but the fact that they did is it's just fact. It's not opinionated fact in this case, as I like to get. It's hardcore, hardwood truth. Scrub away all that old varnish and ashes. Get to the hardwood truth like on this table. They gave the office of president. Now, could they have known that the Trump would rise? And first, hey, think about this. I hadn't thought about this, but I'll spit it on out. Even if they had known Donald Trump was going to win president one day, they still might have supported, because guess what? Until he actually won, they liked the dude. I mean, they were lining up, Mitt Romney, the great never-Trumper, King Swamper. The greatest honor I've ever received and the greatest day of my life is when Donald Trump supported me, And all these Democrats, man, they loved Donald Trump until he committed the greatest crime in the history of America. He got elected, and ever since then, man, they actually hated the dude, man. They hate him more. I mean, I don't know if he'll even be able to be loved once he's dead, because they love them dead Republicans. They don't like the live ones too much, except for people like Swamp Rat Romney and old John McCain. Oh, I said John McCain. Oh, we can't talk about John McCain. Oh, my God.
You shall not have died in vain. I'm not quite dead, sir.
And that's actually true of McCain. His legacy is not quite dead, because it's still hampering and gumming up the works. Even though, my heart...
If you like these type of comments, tune into John's Facebook page. We post them as memes all the time.
Absolutely. Check it out. All right, so 14 Republicans broke ranks to vote with Democrats in attempting to overturn Trump's veto, but they represent a small minority, not small enough, as most GOP lawmakers stood with the president, arguing that he was addressing the emergency Democrats had ignored, and that is absolutely true. But here's the good news out of this. We like to get clarity, right? We want to make things transparency. Isn't that what they always say? Politicians are, we're all for transparency. Oh, don't look behind the man at the curtain over there, but we're for transparency. Well, let me give you something that is absolutely transparent. Lean in. These 14 that voted for it, let's primary these fools and get them the heck out of there. Let's go ahead and give them what they want, the ability to run another time as a Democrat. So let's primary, let's take these 14, go and look and see if one of your congressmen, I don't have to look, I know my congressman Ted Yoho wasn't one of them. I know I don't even have to look at that. But if he was, I'd be calling for him to be primaried. But I know he's not, so I don't have to worry about it. But if your congressman is one of these 14, somebody run against those dudes or gals, whoever, I'm equal opportunity. Get rid of them. Back to the article. The radical left in this House this is coming from Tim McClintock, Republican of California. He said, the radical left in this House would dissolve our borders entirely if given the chance. They care more about defending the Iraq border than in defending their own. Well said. Amen, sir. And you could say that about a lot of people. I don't know much about Mr. McClintock, but he sounds like, he gives me hope that he's coming from California. So if you're out there in California, don't give up hope, drop the dope, don't give up hope, and vote the right way. Yeah, that just popped in my head, man. I'm a Captain Whitebread's got a little rap in him every now and then, man. You want to hear some rap from Captain Whitebread? Now, y'all never did that.
Okay, no thank you.
No thank you.
Let's stay off this topic.
How about I can do it really quick for you. The itty bitty spider climbed up the water spout. Out come the rain and washed the sucker out, saying itty bitty, huh. Hey, there you go. I'm a rapper, man. I'm a itty bitty rapper.
I feel like Jeb Bush right now. Applause, please.
This is when you're supposed to applause. Don't change the channel. I can tell you, my grandkids, when they're really young, they get a kick out of that, man. But border apprehensions have spiked and are on pace for the highest level since 2008. But there's no crisis. But hold on a minute. So there's no crisis here. But the Washington Post says in their article here, lawmakers of both parties generally agree that there is unfolding humanitarian crisis at the border, with many families from Central America attempting to enter the United States, but Democrats argue that the wall won't help that. Manufactured. The wall won't help. Then why did the last 4 presidents build walls? Why did people like Pelosi and Schumer vote for that in the past? It's because they suffer now from Trump derangement syndrome, and the only crisis is that they can't get their head out of something. That's what it's all about. Republicans disagree, and Trump has continually argued that a wall, the central issue he campaigned on, is needed to stop illegal immigration and drugs. Trump long claimed Mexico, and I love this part right here because they always want to throw it up in the president's face. Trump long claimed Mexico would pay for the wall, but National Emergency Declaration allows him to take $3.6 billion appropriated by Congress for military construction project. Oh my God, we're going to grind the military to a halt, man. And projects nationwide used to build barriers along the border. Let me just tell you, and we talked about this story, I think it was yesterday. Go back to johnmartintalks.tv or my John Martin Talks YouTube, certainly my Facebook page. But in Venezuela right now, things are so bad there that the only thing keeping what little bit of economy they have left is the Yankee dollar, right? American dollars keeping it afloat. Remittances is the key word. I told you to kind of keep that word in mind because it's very important. It's important to this story because Mexico would pay for the wall if Congress could muster the courage to act. You can't really, did anybody really believe that just like I guess everything Trump said, when he talked about the Russians need to get Hillary's email. Oh my God, he's asking for Russian intelligence. It was a joke. Get over it. Donald Trump's still your president. I know you can't get over that, but you might try. But when Donald Trump was talking about Mexico will pay for it, did anybody really think that the current president, whoever that was of Mexico, was just going to say, okay, here's your check? Come on, man. There are so many ways to make Mexico pay for the wall. First of all, if we could just stop the flow of illegal drugs and all these illegal immigrants coming in and diseases and stuff like that, we're going to talk more about that in a minute, that would pay for itself without anybody writing a check, right? We'd pay for it. But Mexico could clearly pay for it if we would simply put a tax on the remittances that are coming from our country into Mexico. I've got this is the closest statistic I could find, so I know this number is much higher now. But in 2014, this is official stats by the U.S. government, projected $26 billion sent as tax-free remittances to illegal aliens from illegal aliens into Mexico. So in 2014, they sent $26 billion. So Trump's only asking for what, 30 billion, but 25 billion, but I'd say, let's round it up like government does, 30 billion to spend. I mean, all they got to do is tax these remittances for any length of time, and not only would it make curtail people coming across the border, but it would pay for itself within a couple of years. Name me one other government project that you could do that with. So this whole idea that, President Trump said Mexico pay for the wall. The reason they're not paying for the wall is Congress doesn't have the muster or the truck nuts or the balls or whatever you want to say to actually pass laws that would make Mexico pay for it. It could be easily done. Because the veto override vote failed in the House, it will not go to the Senate, sparring senators from having to take another vote on the issue that deeply divided Republicans in the chamber. In one sense, that's a shame that it's not going, so we can keep identifying. But, and I posted this on my Facebook page, you can go back and check it out. We can post it again if we can find it. But we have the dirty dozen. We have the dirty dozen. And we'll post it before the show's over probably. We have the dirty dozen, and I hate to admit it. Like I told you, Ted Yoho, I didn't even have to look to know that he didn't vote for this to override the president's veto. My senator, and yes, I voted for the guy, Marco, how's my hands, Rubio. He actually voted. He's one of the dirty dozen that voted to overturn the president's emergency power. Rubio, I'm telling you right now, Rubio is done. There's the dirty dozen right there. Those are the people that you need to primary when you get a chance. Vote them out, call them out, period, across the border and across the line. And I say that Marco Rubio, I'll call you out right now, sir. Shame. I'm telling you, you're done in Florida. You're absolutely done in Florida. Let's vote. You may have voted on principle. I doubt it. I don't think you had any. I think you voted on the Chamber of Commerce along with the Koch brothers. That's what I really think. But you're done, sir. It's going to take a lot more than the Koch billions to get you reelected, man. At least 7 lawsuits have been filed in federal courts challenging the legality of Trump's emergency declaration and his plans to spend funds on the wall that have been appropriated by Congress for that purpose. The government has yet to reply to them, and no hearings have been scheduled. Before I comment on that, let me just back up one thing. Mr. Rubio, I give you an open invitation. If you want to defend your vote against the president on this declaration of emergency at the border, please come on the show. Phone in, come in, be right here. I'll put you on. I'll give you a fair chance to explain yourself. I don't think you can, but hey, you have an open invitation to come on this show and explain yourself. I'm not too hard to find. Any of you support Rubio, let him know. He can come on here and explain it. But now, so these courts, these various groups and states have challenging this, but the court has yet to take it up. And I think it's going to be his Powers Act is going to be upheld no matter what, because Congress gave him, as I explained to you earlier, Congress gave the office of president this. They didn't take it from him. It was given away. And so what the president needs to do between now and then while the courts haven't taken is build that wall as fast as you can. Lay them bricks. Bop, 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 bop. Lay them bricks, man. Get her done, DJT. You heard that from JMT. Build that wall. Build that wall. It's better for all. There's no, that's one of my sayings. And let me get I got new technology here. So we just need to get her done. Build that wall. Better for them all. All right, we're going to move on. Let's check the time. Man, we got a pretty good bit of time here. I've got several stories I still want to cover, including, by the way, we're going to get to old Smollet after a while. Chicago Smollett. Smollett, is that how you say it? I call him Juicy Smollett. That's what it looks to me like. But anyway, here's something. This is coming to you from Breitbart, and they're one of the few conservative publications out there. I mean, we're in the same kind of battleground. We're like soldiers on the field with Breitbart. So I give them a lot of credit. I listen to them all the time. I want to make sure I give them credit. But so this article is coming from them. But you know who couldn't muster up an apology? Was old Jeff Zucker. not Zuckerberg, but they probably brothers from another mother, but Jeff Zucker of CNN, not only could he not apologize for the crap they've been feeding us for the last 2 years on CNN about the Mueller report, but he went on and doubled down. Jeff Zucker, no regrets on CNN's Russia hoax coverage. We are not investigators, he said. So he's saying that CNN is not investigators. So what in the hell are you paying for? But in an interview with the New York Times, Zucker said he was entirely comfortable with CNN's Trump-Russia coverage and suggested it was entirely appropriate to give near around-the-clock coverage due to the story's magnitude. See, this is becoming the press's mantra now, that the fake news press across the board, that we didn't have a choice. We simply had no, the story was just too big and it was out there. We didn't have a choice. We just believed the PP dossier, hook, line, and sinker, all this kind of stuff. And of course, Hillary Clinton, well, of course she's to be believed. I mean, we don't investigate, by the way. So the press is just saying all this crap now, man. We didn't have any choice. Of course you had a choice. You could have also reported the other side of the story, and this whole thing would have lasted 2 days, not 2 years, man. But he goes on to say, Zucker says, we are not investigators. We are journalists. I thought what's a journalist that's not an investigator? Just a parrot? They just parrot what give me a break. And our role is to report the facts as we know them. In other words, their truth. If true, they literally had their reporters saying that on there. If true, Donald Trump is the great, it kind of sounded like some of those, those pharmaceutical commercials. This pill will make you feel better. But if true, you will shut your brains out and die, It's just crazy, man. But the CNN chief wrote in an email, a sitting president's own Justice Department investigates his campaign for collusion with a hostile nation. That's not enormous because the media says so. That's enormous because it's unprecedented. So he says, I tell you what's unprecedented is to spend tens of millions of dollars on something that was created by another candidate, in this case Hillary Clinton, a total lie, the PP dossier, which basically started all this with the corrupt FBI people and all. That's what's enormous. But let me ask CNN, how do you explain this? CNN actually has a website called, get this, CNN Investigates. That's the name of the website. CNN Investigates. So he better, maybe you want to get rid of that website. Yeah, check it out. It's up there, man. CNN Investigates is actually a website. So how do you explain that? You say, we're not investigating, but you got a whole section of your website or a companion website, and you literally do stories called, guess what? CNN Investigates. Good Lord, man. He'll probably put that up when he finds it. Yeah, but let me just tell you, talking about this, investigation and that the Justice Department, this is another thing, the mantra. Okay, you want to put it up? All right, put it up. There you go, man. CNN Investigates. And they do that. They had this headless tagline before numerous stories. This site's been up for a long time. CNN Investigates. Well, not according to the CEO of CNN. They don't investigate. But their website says it. So they fake news right there. Isn't that fake? One of them is fake, right? You got the guy that's in charge of it all saying we don't investigate, yet their own thing says CNN Investigates. So, it's par for the course, man. It is par for the course. But I wanted to get to this point that they're making about, they're saying, well, Russia interfered with our elections. And even Donald Trump admits that and everything. What's he going to do about it and everything else, man? Well, what election did the Russians interfere with? It was the 2016 election. I'm not denying that. There's no collusion, but Russia, let me just let you in on a little secret in case you don't know, snowflakes. We have a history with Russia, and it has been one of their try to screw us every chance they get. I could give you all kind of details, but they try to screw us every chance they get. So the fact that they're trying to change the results or hamper. They're probably just, what if you really go back and look at it, all Russia is trying to do is get us all pissed off at each other. That's all they're really trying. They don't really care. You really think that they didn't necessarily want Hillary Clinton? I mean, for God's sake, she gave them $20 billion of uranium. They donated to her foundation, her and her husband, hundreds of millions of dollars, and paid Bill Clinton to speak when he looked there good with it. I mean, I can see it right. You know who's probably pissed about all this more than anybody else? I hadn't thought about this, but the guy that is probably the most pissed is Bill Clinton, because he went and spoke for about $1 million a couple of different times, for like $500,000 twice, something like that, to Russia. And now he finds out that his wife knew that there were peeing whores over there, and he didn't get none of them. So he's got to be pissed off because he didn't peed on. I mean, so the one guy that totally got screwed or didn't get screwed is Bill Clinton, because he got cash, but hell, he's got plenty of money. Give me the peeing whore. You can see right now, Bill's going to Hillary somewhere. You knew about the peeing hookers and you didn't tell me? So I guarantee you he's the one that got screwed or didn't get screwed in this all over, man. But this idea that the Russians interfered with the 2016 election, I don't deny they probably did that. As I say, they've been trying to screw us over forever. But who was in charge of the 2016 elections and any type of investigation into criminality in them and preventing voter fraud? Would it not have been President Barack Obama? It was his Justice Department that had the authority. What could Trump have done about it? I mean, the FBI knew that they said they knew these people were Russian spies, but they didn't tell Trump to give him a chance to get rid of them, even though now it proves it was bogus to start with. But they gave old Frankenstein Feinstein that she had, it took them 20 years to tell her, but they finally told her, hey, this Chinese guy you got here, man, he's driving you around and he's a Chi-Commie spy. And they told her about it, but they didn't. She got rid of him after 20 years, but they didn't tell Trump anything. But Obama was, if anybody is responsible for allowing the 2016 elections to be influenced by the Russians, it's Barack Obama and his Justice Department, not Donald Trump, because he wasn't even in there. Can't blame it on a man that's not there. Well, I guess you can. It's like the guys I used to work with on these big, huge construction jobs, and people get laid off, and they say, I don't know why they laid me off. I ain't done nothing. According to a 4-page summary of Mueller's findings written by the Justice Department, investigators found no evidence President Trump's campaign conspired or coordinated with Russia to influence the election. Last December, CNN congressional correspondent Manu Raja reported that WikiLeaks emailed Donald Trump Jr. access to information nearly 2 weeks prior to their public release. Man, that is really, hey, if true, that's a bad thing. But there's a funny thing about that. However, the network failed to verify the email's date, which was September 14, 2016, by which time the emails had already been released. So this secret clandestine meeting that Donald Trump Jr. was supposed to have with the Russians, it was all about these emails that were already out for public knowledge, man. I mean, but CNN reported it. If true, I mean, but I guess they don't investigate, so who can hold them responsible? House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci, who lasted about a day up there in one, he's an interesting character, was being investigated for meeting with Russian banker ahead of President Trump's inauguration. He's meeting with Russian banker. That's got to be bad, right? Scaramucci denied the claim, and CNN eventually apologized for inaccurate reports. CNN executive editor Lex Harris, editor Eric Lechenbeau, and journalist Thomas Frank resigned in shame over the story. So, CNN apologized, but the whole thing about the Russian hoax and the whole thing about the Mueller report and everything, maybe CNN should apologize. You think? Maybe they will. Maybe they've seen the light. But let's let their Chris Como, their pride and joy of Chris Como, I think he's got a little something to say about whether or not they might apologize.
You guys on this network
what have I done?
Have tortured this man for 2 years with collusion, and nobody's apologized.
First of all,
so before we talk about obstruction, apologize for the overreaction of collusion.
Not a chance.
Well, of course you're not.
Not a chance.
Of course you're not, because you're not being fair.
No, please. You know better than that, or you wouldn't be
No, I
here.
don't know better. I am outraged by the behavior of these networks.
Okay.
Collusion. No collusion.
Okay, here's my
no
case.
collusion.
Here's my case.
Apologize.
Never. Here's my case.
Never?
Never. I didn't do anything wrong. These questions are real.
Well, I
they
thought
needed to be regarded as such,
treasonous?
and they needed to be investigated. Did you
People
hear me
came
say
on-
that?
No, but I heard
Do
people
I
on
hold
this
you to
network
account
say
for
it.
what people say that you don't?
There were people on this network that did. How about this network should apologize? How about Jeff Zucker should
Do I
apologize?
ask you to apologize for everything the president says that's not true?
No.
Okay, good. So we're even.
But you asked me to apologize for what I do, and I do.
That's probably good enough, man. You heard it there? Never. Never. These questions, he said, these questions had to be answered or asked. I mean, give me a break, man. Did you ever ask whether or not the thing was true? Did you ever ask whether or not what the insurance policy was that Stroke and Strock had that he texted to Page? Did you ever ask that? Did you ever ask Obama what was true about that minute video that we've played before that shows him talking to the foreign minister of Russia, saying basically, hey, I got to get elected. Once I get elected, I'll be able to work with old, tell Vlad kind of thing. There's more collusion in that like 2-minute video than in the 2 years of the Mueller report. Did you ever ask any of those things? My God, man, did you ever? I mean, they literally, it's just the audacity that they have to basically just go, well, we had to answer it. We had no choice. I mean, that's the line they want to do. It's just sad, man. It's really, really sad. Let me check my time. Okay, we're doing pretty good. Over the course of Mueller probe, back to the article. This is a Breitbart article. I want to give them credit. CNN gave a platform to Trump-Russia collusion pusher such as Representative Adam Schiff. I call him Shifty Schiff. Now, I don't know if we got a picture of him, but let me tell you, this dude, Shifty Schiff, man, if they ever do a reboot of True Blood, and they have them gay vampires up, if this congressional thing don't work out for you, sir, you have an opportunity, because he looks like one of them freaky gay vampires from True Blood to me. We'll get it up where you tell me. I'll report, you decide. I don't know if I'm going to investigate vampires, though, by the way. That's probably not. There he is. You don't tell me. I mean, he's looking. It's the sun. It's the sun. It's coming. I mean, that dude is something. For example, talking about Shifty Schiff, example appeared February 19th, CNN State of the Union. Schiff was actually called up to be kind of a commentator on the State of the Union afterwards. The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee claimed that there is compelling evidence. Now, this is what CNN put out there. Compelling evidence in plain sight of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. Now, excuse me, did the CNN anchor at that time go, where's the evidence? What evidence? They just took it. They don't investigate. They don't even ask questions, let alone, they don't even ask hardcore questions. Like, where's the evidence? Present it. You know? I mean, there you go. There's, well, what do he said there's shocking evidence out there, plenty of evidence out there of collusion. And they don't even say, well, where? I mean, give me a break, man. It's crazy. In 2017, an undercover investigator for Project Veritas filmed CNN supervising producer John Bonifeld saying that the Russia conspiracy theory was mostly, hold on, now this is what CNN guy said, the Russian conspiracy theory was mostly bullshit. That's what he said. He must be listening to JMT, man. Because I've been telling you, we've been a lot of bullshit. And bullshit alert. And the network was promoting it so heavily without real evidence because, and this is the CNN guy's words, because of ratings. Did you see where CNN's ratings dropped right after the Mueller report came out? But let me just tell you, CNN, you could fill in MSNBC. Heck, you could fill out the whole Democratic Party, especially their elected officials. They rely on this bullshit because what they want you to be is a mushroom sitting in the dark in the corner where they can just feed you the bullshit and you'll continue to grow. That's what they want. But what can you do? Here's what you can do. You got to have the muster. You got to get the muster of courage to just turn these suckers off. You got to turn them off. I mean, I'll watch them so you don't have to. I'll do you that favor so we can comment, but you got to turn them off. And the only way you can really do it's not, and the thing with CNN, they're pretty sharp, man. They're no dummies. They may be, scumbags that don't investigate, but CNN investigates. They may be anti-America, but they're not dummies. They got these contracts where you are paying them even if you don't want to. If you have a cable package, you're paying them. It doesn't matter what. The cheapest cable package still paying CNN. You go in the airport, they got these packages, all this internet. So we're paying them even if we don't want it. So it's not even enough because their ratings, if they had to rely on their ratings and advertisers, they'd already be shut down. They have like 90 million subscribers to CNN. 90 million. Now, do you think 90 million people, even on a yearly basis, watch CNN? It's 90 separate million people? No. So the only way we're really going to get rid of them, I hate to say this, is to cut off like our cable packages and all that stuff. We got to send them. But we got to send a message to all of these people. Yeah, I want to investigate Hillary, all this stuff. I want all that done. But we don't have a lot of control over that. What we can control is turning off the thing, decabling from CNN, and we can hold all these sons of guns that, including Republicans, by the way, that are standing against the president. We can hold them accountable and vote them out. That's what we can control, and that's up to all of us, not just the dregs and the plurals, but anybody with an open mind, any Democrat that's finally getting truly woke and ready to walk away or whatever. You don't even have to walk away. Just vote these suckers out, man. All right, let's move on. Here's a story that at first blush you may wonder, well, why am I reporting on this? It's a local, regional issue, but more will be revealed. And so first I want to give the credit to these people in Rockland County. At least they mustered up the courage to say measles outbreak is an emergency. And this is coming to you from New York 4 television. Rockland County declares measles state of emergency, bans unvaccinated minors from public places. Rockland County declared a countywide state of emergency relating to the ongoing measles outbreak, the longest outbreak since the disease was eradicated in the United States in 2000, according to officials. So first of all, I would like to thank the people of Rockland County for looking out for the American people. Thank you, because we don't get that very often these days. But I would ask you you're taking this step, do one more thing. Can you please just pick up the phone, maybe shoot an email to Nancy Pelosi and your Senator Chucky Schumer and just tell them that when disease is coming into your area, when people are unvaccinated and undocumented and everything else coming into your area, that it is a state of emergency? Because they're not declaring one at the border, even though we did a story last week. Check it out. Go to our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks, johnmartintalks.tv, or go directly to our Facebook page, John Martin Talks. Like it and share it with others. I really need your help there. But we did a story about the mumps and how they're quarantining people, not at the border, but spreading them to various facilities all over the country and quarantining them there and then ultimately releasing them. Diseases, think that this statement talk about measles being eradicated. There are multiple diseases that we've essentially eradicated due to the greatest public health care in the world, but that's another story. We've eradicated them, but we're letting them come back in and many times illegally crossing the border. That could be more dangerous than the drugs and everything else. So you might, we took your jobs. They might take your life, man. But could you please, Rockland, please contact the national officials and tell them that when you have these kind of situations, you have to declare an emergency. Effective at the stroke of midnight, Wednesday, anyone who is under 18 years of age and unvaccinated against the measles will be barred from public places until the declaration expires in 30 days or until they receive the MMR vaccination. So I ask, how many... we get evidence that's record numbers of people coming across our border. And this is not meant to beat them down, but I'm asking this for the security of our own nation. How many unvaccinated people are released every day into this country? How many? It's got to be in the hundreds of thousands totally, but certainly the tens of thousands every day are released in this country who are unvaccinated. But there's no emergency. Oh, Chucky and Nancy, there's no emergency. The senators that voted, the dirty dozen that we put up there that voted to overturn the President's Emergency Act on the border, it's no emergency. No emergency. I guess, and I don't wish this on you, let me say that but I guess it would be an emergency if your kid or grandkid caught measles or the mumps or TB. I hope that doesn't happen, but would you get woke then? I don't know. Those unable to be vaccinated, going back to the article, this is what happened in Rockland County, New York. Not at our border, but in Rockland County. I wonder if some of this came from that. I don't know. I'm just asking. It might have. I would not be surprised. Those unable to be vaccinated for documented and confirmed medical reasons are exempt from the declaration. So the documented, they have to be documented. Imagine that. People needing to be documented. Now, we're talking about American citizens. So they're requiring documentation from American citizens, but none from people who are bus rushing, bum rushing our border. It's crazy, man. It just shows the insanity to argue for Rockland County to do the right thing. I tip my hat to them. But for the nation to turn it, I mean, what? It's like putting your finger in the dike, man. You know, I mean, I hope Rockland County solves this, but it doesn't do them much good to be doing this while people are pouring in. And guess where a lot of illegals go? To sanctuary states like New York and New York City. So I don't think we've seen the end of this by anything. I think it's just starting. During a Tuesday press conference, Rockland County Executive Ed Day said the county entered its 26th week of measles outbreak. I love this next paragraph. He says, "We believe this to be the first such effort of this kind nationally, and the circumstances we face here clearly call for that." An emergency act. "Rockland will lead the way in service and safety to the people here." Amen, brother. Thank you. But please give, like I said, Nancy and Chuck, and while you're at it, maybe call or put out a statement to the 2020 jackasses on jackasses that are running for president on the Democratic Party and let them know that, hey, you know, we've eradicated disease, but it's coming here. Anyway, I guarantee you a lot of it's coming across the border. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure that out. Last year, let me check my time because I got one more story I got to get away. Anyway, I'll read this and then we'll close it. Last year, not just one, but 7 unvaccinated travelers diagnosed with measles entered our country between October 1st and October 17th, leading to 153 confirmed cases. This is the longest outbreak in the U.S. due to measles since the disease was officially eradicated in 2000, Day said. So first of all, I love that unvaccinated travelers. I guess that maybe we could, hey, look at there. There's some, you know, illegal. No, they're just unvaccinated travelers. That's all they are. Do you really think that it's a coincidence that diseases that we have eradicated are popping back up at the same time that we've got hundreds of thousands of people bum rushing our border? Do you really believe there's no connection there? I mean, give me a break, man. Anyway, we're going to, so the thing that gets me about this, they're willing to declare this and hold people accountable. They're going to put people in jail and fine them $500 a day that violate this, by the way. That's what they say. So they're willing to put all these restrictions, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, but we put no restrictions on people basically coming across the border. You know, they're coming here as an act of love, as Jeb Bush would say. You're done too, by the way. Same holds for you, Jeb. If you and Marco y'all want to double team me, but we ain't talking about like the 2 Mikeys with the bend over guy. I ain't for that. But if y'all want to double team me and explain yourself, Jeb and Marco, I'll have you on, man. I'll have you on. All right, we're going to move on. Now, this is something I call fake muster. In other words, it's just crazy. And this is coming from The Wrap. I use that publication quite frequently. Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel calls Jesse Smollett drop charges a whitewash of justice. Check my time. Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel strongly condemned the Cook County State Attorney's Office decision to drop all charges against Jesse Smollett, calling it a whitewash of justice. This is Rahm Emanuel, not me. He said, "This is a whitewash of justice." Tuesday afternoon during a fiery press conference, a grand jury could not have been clearer. So I asked, is Rahm dog whistling? You know, is he saying whitewash? Is he trying to call the hooded people there? Is he calling for the Klan? Because, you know, if he's a Democrat, he's probably got a hotline to the Klan. The Democrats, they are, you know, they did create the Klan, by the way. But is he dog whistling? But if it's truly to help Chicago, I mean, heck, call on Captain Whitebread. I'll come, man. You don't need a dog whistle. Just tell me. Captain Whitebread will defend you. I guarantee you.
Just set up the buffet.
Yeah, just put the buffet line. That ain't nice. That ain't right.
Sorry,
Set
John.
at the buffet, man. You know, we could judge that. Hey, if they got some culture worth appropriating up there, I'm for it. Chicago pizza. I like the pizza. We'll try it all out. We have a pizza eating contest or something. In a stunning reversal, all charges, talking about Jesse Smollett, all charges were dropped against Smollett Tuesday morning by the Cook County State Attorney's Office. And they said in a stunning reversal. Now, let me just tell you, are you stunned? I mean, I know you're disappointed. You might go, wow. But are you really stunned that there's corruption in Chicago? I mean, are you really, is the word stunned? I mean, if you found out dead people were voting in Chicago, would you go, hey, I'm stunned by that? They've been doing it forever, man. Long before the zombies took over Atlanta, they've been dead folks coming out the ground and voting in Illinois forever, man. Forever. And so stunned, I don't think is the word, because Chicago is corrupt, brother. It has been for a long, long time. The Empire Star, talking about Mr. Smollett, was indicted on 16 felony counts of disorderly conduct. You know the story. I don't have to. And he wasn't acquitted. He was just, the charges were basically dropped. And they scored 2 men shouting racial and homophobic slurs in Chicago neighborhood. Now, we found out who these people are, and I've been saying and I'm going to say this a couple of times. I have a little bit of sympathy for Smollett. I do. And you don't turn off, because it could be from the very beginning that he just answered the wrong email. Maybe he got a Nigerian email saying, open up a bank account and I give you $200 million because I'm, Nigerian prince. Well, he got contacted maybe by 2 Nigerian princes. Now, who could resist 2 Nigerian princes? Especially this guy. Smollett had a chance to rock and roll with Nigerian princes. Have you seen the bodies on them dudes? I mean, those guys are chiseled. I bet, man, that old Smollett, I call him Juicy. He was juicy that day. Johnson also, hey, I just reported, you decide. Johnson also heavily criticized the decision. Do I think justice was served? No, he said, adding that he stands behind the work of the detectives. I've heard that they wanted their day in court with TV cameras so America could know the truth, but no, they chose to hide behind secrecy and broker a deal to circumvent the judicial system. I stand behind the detectives. That's the chief. Now, this Johnson fella seems to be about the only straight real shooter in there, pardon the pun, Chicago shooter. I know that's a sensitive thing. Think about Chicago. They don't ever have any school shootings. You ever notice that? There's no mass school shooting in Chicago. You know why? Because they're shot before they get to school. They don't even get a chance to get to school before they get shot, man. So there's no school shootings in Chicago because they shooting them before they get there, man. But Smollett's attorney, anyway, so she tells us about there's no deal. I'm about to run out of time, so I want to make sure I cover this. There's no deal. Was there a deal? Is there a deal? Supposedly, first of all, there was some kind of deal, because you don't just pay $10,000 cash and do community service if you're not guilty, right? Come on. So, we've uncovered some, and we only got a few minutes, but I want to make sure you understand, because we have uncovered evidence of the deal, and also why Smollett may have been, this thing, before you rush to judgment, don't do like the left and rush to judgment. Wait till you see this video, because you may agree that Smollett has paid his penance. Can we roll that video?
Brian, get a picture of Mr. Marsh apologizing. Ready to go, sir. Kiss it. Huh? Apologize. Kiss it. You want me to kiss your... That's right, apologize. Okay, I'll, see here. Apologize.
He spent 12 hours with Jesse Jackson. Can you imagine kissing the O-ring of Jesse Jackson for 12 hours straight? That's probably worse than meeting to toss out or bend over. So maybe, just maybe, Smollett has paid his debt to society by kissing the O-ring of Jesse Jackson and doing an official apology. So I don't know. This is a crazy case. It appears that Smollett is guilty of all this stuff. And let me just restate this. That I've dealt with this a lot because I worked at a drug treatment center. And so I've worked with a lot of people dealing with the court system. You don't do community service or pay fines if you're not guilty. It's just a plea deal. And I don't blame the guy. If you can't blame him for taking it, but don't be stunned that Chicago is corrupt. And don't for a minute believe that Rahm Emanuel is all brokenhearted over this, because you don't see him holding these press conferences for the daily shootings that are happening in Chicago. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook if you haven't done so already. And if you have, I appreciate it. Thank you. But like it directly and invite other people, because we need to be supported by fighters out there. I'll certainly keep the fight going. But if you personally can't fight that way, you can certainly help me battle ignorance and apathy on a daily basis, which is what we're trying to do here in a seriously entertaining way. Well, this is the end of the show, so I'll leave you with what I always do. Have a blessed day.